Hi, Devon. Welcome.
How you doing?
Good. And welcome everyone else to Ben's Business Podcast, episode number 8. And Devon's my third guest of the show. And we met through working on a project with Richard Moore, based in London. He's a sales coach, and we're building kind of the back end of the website together. And that's how we kind of met through that project there. And we've stayed in touch outside of that project as well, and through social media. And to give an introduction on what Devon does is, a poet, TEDx speaker, philosopher, and founder of the technology agency Blue Fission, based in Wilmington, North Carolina. Did I say that right? Is it Fission?
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah. So rather than me telling people who you are, you want to give an introduction to who you are?
No problem. So I like to think of myself as a professional problem solver, and anything that gives me a way to solve problems is what I get into. I went to school for computer science and philosophy. I've been doing martial arts my entire life. I like seeing the solution behind things, the project that's behind every problem. I've been doing that for most of my life. At 13, I definitely knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. And I found a way to work on that to make lunch money in high school. And that's been my life ever since.
Cool. Yeah. Also, there's the introduction you gave me as well on all the other things. Is there any more you could give us just on yourself?
Oh, absolutely. So, I'm one of those people. I go all around the place because I don't like there being a channel of curiosity that I don't follow.
Yeah.
So I've been a cage fighter.
Yeah.
I've been a DJ. I've been a TEDx speaker, spoken word poet. I'm in the process of writing a poetry book and a short story right now, a fiction based on technology trends and churning that out.
Okay.
I've been a coach, technologist. I worked with several startups. It's kind of in the startup space, and I look for things that are difficult, so they can challenge me. And I don't like easy problems. I like things that are a little bit challenging.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I knew the reason I asked for a second introduction is because I knew there was more to you than that. There's much more depth. So yeah, there's a lot you're working on at the moment. I meant to ask you as well, what was it that actually, what makes your heart sing? That's my main question to you.
Like I said, big problems. I like to look at where, I think that the most important thing to work on in the world, period, is people. And I think the most important thing to work on with people is how they think. So when I work with technology, I work with automation. I work with health education, because I think that we underutilize the technology of thinking. We've gotten so good at understanding it. We have software, cars that drive themselves. Like, we can outsource thinking so well. And I think that we've forgotten how much good thinking there is to do in our own minds and how that makes the world particularly better. So that's really everything for me. It's why I fell in love with philosophy, and it's why I fell in love with entrepreneurship. There was a group of people, an entire demographic, who thought I can think myself out of any problem, no matter how hard, no matter how much it would cost. And I fell in love with that. People who were willing to take the idea of solving problems to such a different level that one of the foremost entrepreneurs in the world right now is trying to move all of humanity to future cities on Mars. That is the definition of epic. And to be part of that classification of people, that's what really gets me. I like to look at it mostly in terms of how to make societies function better. The automation, the education, wellness, everything. Integrated societies through technology and better thinking.
Yeah, so there's more to it than just, like you say, technology is one of your passions, but there's much more to that, because reading a bit about you and some of the introduction we had in our initial meeting before this, you mentioned that you were kind of a philosopher student dropout in a way. But it sounds like you continued studying philosophy outside of your actual curriculum, and then you went on into sort of computer science and technology. But yeah, I guess that was Elon Musk that's sending us to Mars you were talking about.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So is he someone that inspires you?
You know, I wouldn't say he inspires me. I think he validates me. You know, if you can imagine any random person comes up and says, you know what I'm going to do? I have a dream. I'm going to make people travel in tubes with self-driving cars, and I'm going to build a city on Mars. You'd look at him like he was a madman. And he embraced the madness. Everyone had to have surely told him he was a madman. His friends at PayPal said, okay, you go on and build your Martian cities. But he's doing it. He's building the rockets. In the fact that he validates himself so well, validates every crazy idea I've ever had. You know, one of my passions, I want to build a city. You know, I like the idea of imagining where you have these super cities that just specialize in a thing. Silicon Valley is an example of it. It specializes in turning money and ideas into the future. And I want to, I'd love to build a city that was essentially, not a college town, but a city that was an academy that was just focused on building the ideas that eventually would be shipped to Silicon Valley to become realities. And if I, you tell someone, hey, I want to build a city, okay, you go on with that, but meanwhile, we have Elon Musk making robotic cars, tunnel travel, and rockets, and it's validating. That passion and execution can take you there. Yeah.
It all starts with the thinking. So it seems like you're thinking very big as well, which is something that kind of you can see that. Building a city, that's an interesting. That's a mission for you.
Yeah, it's really what the only way I see to accomplish kind of what I do. What I do in business is I build and invest in hyper-local businesses that are essentially the government institutions I would want to see in my perfect world. So one of the businesses that I'm a partner in, we do health and wellness initiatives in the city. The idea is to create and establish a culture of wellness, and we do this through some of your standard services, digital marketing for health and wellness companies, but we also build technologies to better keep track of everything. So we track and collate and disseminate all of the events for wellness going on, so that we can essentially build a perfect health and wellness track for every citizen in the city. Match every trainer to their perfect 6 to 13 students, so that the decision of how to be healthy, there's just tens of thousands of pages of what to do. The question is, what does health mean to you? Figure that out. And we have systems for that. We have technology for that. We have experts for that. So how can you turn all of this knowledge in a city into a track for everybody? We have another business that works just with senior citizens so that they have better end-of-life care, making sure that they're connected to basically day-to-day plans for discounts, deals, whatever serves the senior citizen. This information is out there, so we're collated. And using the ability to put this information together so everyone's quality of life is better. They do better thinking because they're not thinking about things that they don't need to be thinking about. It's not making their life better to being anxious about what they're going to do there, how they're going to do things they want to do anyway. So in my way, building those institutions, like if I could build a government, I would make those institutions real, but I'm not a politician. I'm a capitalist. So I build businesses that are those institutions, and build them up as big as I can until essentially they serve the needs of the population. And that's kind of a model. And one day I want to build a city it's not ad hoc. It's built from the ground up with the idea of providing all of these things the same way, all validated by these experiments, by these businesses that prove that people want it, that people need it. And if they had the ability to vote on it, they would. They just voted with their dollars.
Yeah, so it's results-based and built on that, yeah. And you talked about before, well, I guess it's like I remember you mentioned I think you said the garden of a technological garden of Eden, like a utopia.
Yeah,
and that would be the ideal.
Yes. So I have a phrase that goes, hedonism before hedonism. The idea that, hedonism is to fulfill your desires and be satisfied as much as you want to. But what I call hedonism is, what you imagine a paradise would be like, where you have exactly what you need, exactly when you need it, always just in time. And making the technologies that provide that, and making the mindset, the culture, and the people that know how to make that kind of society work and be put together. And the disregard of Eden, to me, works. I imagine, like, if you're hungry, you go to a tree and you say, "Hey, tree, I want an apple," and then the tree gives it to you. Well, why isn't my fridge a vending machine? Why does if we're in the age of smart technology, I want to go to my fridge and I want to scan my biometrics and say, "Oh, your potassium's a little bit low. You need about 206 calories. Here's the banana." I didn't ask the fridge for the banana. It just knew I was hungry because it could hear my stomach grumbling, and it just gave me a banana. It didn't give me a banana and a milkshake. It didn't give me half a banana. It gave me exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it. I say, "Thanks, fridge," and I move on. That's what I want Amazon to make, right? That's what I want someone to build. And who can take that? If anyone's listening to this and wants to do that, please, by all means, build me a vending machine fridge. I don't have time for that idea, but that's the world I want. That's the digital Garden of Eden, where society works well with automation, but it's doing it based off of human needs and human values, not based solely on just algorithms. It's working beside people to make a type of paradise so that they can live a real better life.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think people are very scared of AI and things coming in and all this advancement and talk about AI. But yeah, there's a lot of, like, in your direction. I'll listen to your TED talk, and you've got a very positive outlook on AI and automation and all the new technology coming to us in the future. So I think your outlook on it is a great idea, and how it can serve us. Your talk on your TEDx talk was about basically a better ending to our life, assisting us in our later life.
Yes.
Elderly.
When the way your life is going to end, most of the things that you want then are the things you're going to want when you're young anyway. So I think about end of life, quality of life, as being the best case scenario for your entire life. In the talk, I talk about having a ramp on your house. We all know there's a 62% chance or so that we're going to suffer some type of hip or knee injury, and we're going to have our mobility limited in our life. But it's not common practice to build ramps on houses until someone needs it. Suddenly you have a panic situation that you have to call a contractor to build a ramp on. All of our technology works like that. Something happens, and then we panic, and then we start adding on the patch that we knew we were going to need anyway. It was a majority chance that we were going to need that type of device. So why is it so uncommon, at least in where I am in the States, to build a ramp on a house from the get-go? Does it make it so aesthetically unpleasing? Well, then we call the designers. We make them design more beautiful ramps. Does it cost more? Well, then we should design cheaper ramp material. But if that was the thought from the get-go, then that ramp would be there your entire life.
Yeah.
A 16-year-old going up a ramp and a 61-year-old going up a ramp, same difference. Neither of them are losing. Everyone has a net gain. If we thought about technology that way, like AI, that we thought about the end game first, we build all the ramps on and off the AI and every bit of technology, even our sustainable and non-sustainable power. We'd have thought about that beforehand. But we think about right now, it's fine, and we'll wait till something goes wrong to do the thing that we already know we should do. And that's really my positive take, that we already know the answers. We just don't make it common practice to implement them beforehand and to design them in such a way that you have the beautiful home in your 20s with a beautiful ramp, instead of waiting until the end of your life where you hammer together an unfinished deck so you can get your wheelchair up, and it's obviously not part of the original design of the structure. It's the way I see it. Yeah,
that's really important. And I've like, my dad's semi-disabled. He's got MS, and like, I've seen the infrastructure in cities and things that just don't cater for him at the moment. And I've seen that struggle. So like, they're bringing they're fixing the problems that the disabled people are having, or anyone that's elderly now. Well, the problem already exists, and like you're saying, if you design that for the future, so that we don't have to design it as we go.
Exactly.
It's thinking ahead a wee bit, yeah. You talked about, last time we were speaking as well, the eudaimonia, I think you said it was. What is it? Could you explain it to the audience?
So eudaimonia is an ancient Greek concept that is essentially a better way to define what happiness is. And I guess the best way to say is, if you have 4 pillars of life that hold up your quality of being, then if you spend all your time on those pillars, then you know that the floor beneath you isn't going to fall down. So I think about making, again, I talk about infrastructures and the processes that allow happiness to happen. And it's a state of being okay enough to be content. There's so much of us, rich or poor, that live in the struggle, in some type of struggle. And often it's not the struggle we want. That's probably the opposite of eudaimonia, is that type of discontentment, disquietude, and struggle. So if you can get rid of the anxiety by making sure things are there, passive income would be, I think Plato and Aristotle would love passive income models as being one of the pillars of modern day eudaimonia. Then that's one bit of anxiety is gone. You would give yourself a place where you can thrive and flourish, and the struggle fades away, unless it's the struggle you want, unless of course it's the challenge you want, and that's the challenge that allows you to grow your passionate struggle. That's fine, because you can always walk away from that. But you go back to it because your soul cries for that struggle. But no one wants to wake up every day and think how they're going to, how they're going to make bills, or how they're going to take care of relationships. You take care of those first, though, and there you find your eudaimonia.
Yeah, I agree. And the other question I had for you is, I mentioned before that you come across as a fast learner, or you've sponged it up. How do you learn to the level that you've learned?
I think so this is a big thing for me, because I think that education and learning are things we don't necessarily understand. I love learning by being involved in what I want to learn. And if you imagined a school that was designed exactly the way you wanted it, you would probably first define your courses, define the things that are in the courses. It might look exactly like school. You still have your book reports, you still have your papers, your tests, and everything else. But what is there in the world, in the adult world, that looks like that model of traditional education, that allows you to learn, but allows you to choose a little bit more about what you learn about, and also allows you to benefit directly from it, maybe even financially rather than grades? And the answer is what you're doing. Right? What you're doing is a perfect example. Journalism, interviews, blogging. I would, if I had the power to wave a magic wand over the entire world's education systems, create a completely journalistic mentee apprenticeship system over everything. So everything you learn is based off of doing something that maybe matters both to you and matters in the world. You interview people and you learn something from it, and then you share with other people, and then the value is obvious. In school, you write a book report, professor sees it, and then it gets thrown into a bin and no one ever sees it again. So you understand that what you're doing is important, and you understand that maybe you're writing about something that you don't really care about just for the sake of making it easier for the professor who has 32 other students in just this course alone. Make smaller classes and make it more intimate. And so to me, my solution for that was to become a journalist and find people I could write for, do interviews. If I wanted to learn something, I'd go to a trade show, and I'd find as many people as possible who wanted videos, who wanted photos, who wanted articles from this trade show. I'd write about it, and I'd mail it to them, and I'd get the checks in. And I'd force myself in a situation where I could directly interview people, investors, entrepreneurs, angels, board advisors, until I found the information that I needed. And that's And of course, then it's also my job. It was my job. So when I'm done with that, I managed to earn my money, earn my education, and then I could sit down and soak in it and drink a beer or something. That was my day. And I think integrating that livelihood into your education is necessary. Find a way to make your time work for you as far as learning goes.
Yeah. So yeah, become a journalist of all your experiences in life, even if you're not an interviewer like I'm doing just now. So you're just documenting your experiences and even sharing it as well as an extra step of learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you do public speaking, I guess. I know from a wee bit of public speaking that's an extra level that I've found that I tend to learn more, because you have to know it first before you talk about it.
Yeah. You have to comprehend it to share it, and that's another reason I love the act of journalism. And maybe if you aren't a writer, then do the interviews. Maybe you make Instagram posts. Maybe you find some way. But in this world that thrives off of content, it's so easy. I'm not saying it's easy to find a way to monetize it. I had a hunt for outlets who wanted my content, but for me, it was also easy because I was interested in entrepreneurship, technology. Lots of people wanted the information from trade shows. If you go to an expo and some big shots there, somebody wants you there with a camera. So, it's not easy for everything, but that's part of being creative. It's part of showing that you really want to learn it, that you think it's worth learning.
Yeah. And I watched your video, like when we were speaking the last time, you said that you interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk. So I went and looked for that video on YouTube and I came across it. But what I found funny about it, at the end of the interview, he spills his coffee, which was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I remembered a few times to check who spilled it, if it was you, but it looked like it was Gary Vaynerchuk's hand going up or something.
Yeah, he's an amazing person, because he looked to his he's always on camera. He looked to his film guy. He said, "Don't you stop it! Don't you dare stop it! Just goes in the show people it's real." And I was like, that was amazing.
Brilliant attitude towards that kind of situation where most people would be like, "Damn it, it's all over the books." But that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was great, to see him. To watch him in a moment. It's like, don't let anybody forget that it's authentic, and I respect him for that. I think that's.
He's thinking about the content.
He's a perfect example of that. He shows something that is real about his journey.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you can't interview somebody. Sometimes journalism is hard, but I guarantee you, almost anything you're doing. I don't care if you're weaving baskets, if you're making Cat5 Ethernet cable, if you sand furniture, if you record it authentically and tell everybody what you're doing while you're doing it, somebody's going to care, and show them the struggle you have learning, and that's going to attract attention, a conversation. Sometimes you have to be your own mentor, and if you struggle through it in public, someone's going to find you. That's the structure of the modern internet. That's the structure of the digital era and social media. Yeah. Someone will find you. You force yourself to be your own mentor and struggle through it.
Yeah, and document it all. Yeah, and have you seen people through what you've done, as well as myself and other people? Do you find that attracts a lot of people to you through? I noticed that you've been kind of doing a bit of vlogging on your YouTube and through Facebook as well. You share a lot of your experiences, like myself, through Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's I would say that what I share is my entire sales cycle for my businesses. If you tell somebody. And this is we're talking about Richard Moore. He's a huge advocate of that. He's I'd say that probably one of the most inspirational people for me, for the idea of being so loud about what you do on social media. If you let people know that, then they know that that's what you're about, because we don't have time to make a post about something we don't care about. So if you put that out there, if you journal it, people notice what you represent all the time, 24/7.
Yeah.
And everyone wants an expert. If they might be doing something 50% of the time, but if they log into social media, they see your YouTube, they see your Facebook Live, they see your Instagram, they see your Twitter, and this is all you do, then you're the expert. They know it because you've made it obvious that that's where you. What's the phrase? You can tell what a man pays attention to by looking at his calendar. That's kind of how it goes.
All right. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. And because of the kind of audience that watch this, a large part of it's Ben's Business Book Club, hence the reason for asking you the same question again. I kind of had a bit of the answer too, but I was wondering if you maybe thought about that as well. So there was some new stuff to that question, but also as business owners as well, because they're reading business books. How should, so a lot of them are probably startups, or they've maybe been in business for 5 years. What would be your advice to new startup businesses on using automation and technology in their business, or and planning to incorporate it into their business on a budget?
Automation on a budget. So we were talking about social media. First thing is obviously use something like Hootsuite or Buffer. Communication is incredibly hard. The more you can automate communication, the more you can stay in conversations, because a business attracts people from communication. Automatic email drips, social media posts, mailing lists. That's how it markets. But the real work is done in the conversation. And you don't want to sit in your life worrying about the conversation and thinking, oh, it's 2:30. This is when so-and-so is going to be looking at their posts in my demographic. So automate that first, because it gives you a chance to actually be the person working with your clients. That's fairly inexpensive in order to manage most of those, especially if you start small. Don't jump into, unless first you're a venture angel-backed company, you just have $600,000 on your hands, spend all of it, have fun. But, most of us don't have that. So begin just looking for a small amount of your audience. Sometimes it's not about being big. Sometimes it's about the first 10 customers. Automate the messaging. Always automate the messaging. That's the first place I'd start. After that, automate your invoices, and then you can live in a conversation.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. One other thing, I think summarized a lot of the things I wanted to ask you, but there was one last thing. You're a rhythmic poet, or do you still do that at the moment? Yeah, I still do rhythmic poetry, lyricism. And I watched a couple of your couple of your freestyles just on YouTube and things. I was wondering if you could summarize this interview on freestyle. Or if I put you on the spot.
That is a bit of a spot. It's nap time here in the States, but so let's see. This isn't going to be great. It's not.
Or you could do it around the idea of eudaimonia. That would probably be easier for you.
All right, let's see what happens. You can measure what you earn from the measure that you learn, because the measure that you treasure is the pleasure as you burn from desires in your soul. Try to become whole. Eudaimonia is only just a concept that you know, but in action you get traction. You allow yourself to move, so you're looking for your passion and you get yourself in groove. So never stop your education, never stop your labor, because you're only going to do your future self a special favor.
Well done. That was good on the spot. Yeah, thanks for that. I think that's probably all we've got time for, but thanks a lot for coming on to this and sharing all your wisdom.
Thanks for having me, Ben. It was great.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.